Do you even need a Quest 3? $500 versus $199. A brand new VR headset versus a now nearly 4-year-old VR headset. Today I'm going to just speedrun which headset you should buy if you don't have either, or if you're still on a Quest 1 or 2 deciding whether or not to jump to a Quest 3 with the Quest 3 Lite now on the horizon. And obviously, should you even consider a Quest 2 now that the Quest 1 is officially losing all support? I mean, Meta isn't even allowing new apps to be listed on the Quest 1 store after the end of this month. This will be the final ultimate comparison between these two legendary headsets before everything changes with the release of the Quest 3 Lite. I'm going to be comparing both headsets against each other via their actual real-world use, not just a goddamn specs list. That said,
back it up, 223 gonna make it.
Just to get it out of the way, here is the goddamn specs list for those of you who want it. The Quest 2 has an 1832 by 1920 per eye resolution. The Quest 3 has a 2064 by 2208 per eye resolution. Both headsets have inside-out tracking. The Quest 2 comes in a 128GB version and 256GB version, and used to come in a 64GB version, but Zuckerberg Thanos snapped that bad boy out of existence, didn't he, the cheeky cut? The Quest 3 comes in a 128GB version and a 512GB version, but most importantly regarding the specs, the Quest 2 has a tighter 97-degree horizontal FOV, whereas the Quest 3 has an 110-degree horizontal FOV. Now this makes a very noticeable difference in immersion and a reduction in motion sickness, and both headsets also support up to 120 FPS. Did you get GetHip? I also forgot a couple of things. The IPD slider, there is none on the Quest 2. It's just a 3-point adjustment system, which is kind of ridiculous, and I still think it's insane that Meta shipped a VR headset without any IPD slider. For those of you out of the loop, your IPD is the distance between both your eyes, and it's kind of important to have the lenses aligned with both your eyes when you're playing on any VR device, and most VR headsets have an IPD slider, and have for many years, until the Quest 2 came along without one, and instead you're stuck between these 3 preset settings, and if your eyes don't line up with any of these 3 settings, then you're kind of like, what? My eyes sit between setting 2 and setting 3, so I was never able to get the Quest 2 completely clear, and I know a lot of people with this same problem. It's not terrible if your eyes don't land perfectly on one of them, but it's always causing some level of extra eye strain and some layer of sometimes cross-eyedness. The Quest 3, on the other hand, actually has a full IPD slider, so you can adjust the lenses to be exactly in line with your eyes and actually be able to see like somewhat reasonably clearly out of the headset. I just want to talk about battery life real quick because it's kind of a complicated subject. The first time I ever used the Quest 3, I used it for mixed reality, and I got like 40 minutes to an hour worth of battery life before I had to charge it again. It dropped down to about 18% in that time from 100%, which was just ridiculous, but granted, it was using full-on mixed reality that whole time. After I gave the headset another charge and I started playing regular full VR games, I started getting closer to that 2 to 3 hour mark that they advertised for the headset, but really it was more like 2 hours. And when I'm using the Quest 3, I have to be quite conscious of when I need to take a break in order to charge the headset for 15 minutes or so. But if you're someone who likes playing games for long periods of time in one go without any break, you're gonna need a battery pack or something for the Quest 3 because it just chews through battery. The Quest 2 obviously isn't great either, and that's sporting between a 2 to 3 hour worth of battery life. I found that the Quest 2 gave me closer to 3 hours more consistently than the Quest 3 ever has. With that out of the way, the Quest 2 is now $199 as of the date of this video, as Meta has reduced its price once again in what seems to be an attempt to clear out the remaining Quest 2 stock before the potential unveiling of the Quest 3 Lite / Quest 3S. Now this has resulted in the Quest 2 quickly selling out in many stores, including the entirety of Amazon in the UK.
I've just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a
So for those of you without a VR headset, do you rush to buy a Quest 2 at this actually insane price? Do you wait for the Quest 3 Lite, or do you put that $200 towards the Quest 3? Or do you even need Quest 3 at all? You may have noticed I haven't asked you to subscribe yet. That's because you probably shouldn't. All my videos are not very good. Also join my Discord over at discord.gg/GetHip if you, hate me, so you can slander me to my face. Okay, anyway, the Quest 3's visuals are a significant jump over the Quest 2's. Most of you already know this, but does it actually matter all that much when so many games are optimized to make the most out of the Quest 2 and are restrained by the Quest 2's hardware to begin with? See, despite all of these upgrades to the Quest 3's resolution and all of these specs, this color accuracy, the lenses, the FOV, the improved hardware, how much of that that actually matters when most games are designed to capitalize on the Quest 2 user market. At the end of the day, currently, there's basically not a single game on the Quest Store that makes full 100% use of the Quest 3's capability. Currently, Asgard's Wrath 2, which just released, Assassin's Creed Nexus, which just released, two new major AAA VR games both have to run on the Quest 2 too. Yeah, like many games now, there are Quest 3 specific updates and visual improvements, but in terms of the actual fundamentals, the levels, the content, the scale, basically anything that's not visual, all of that is handicapped by having to have to run on Quest 2 hardware too. For example, if you're a Gorilla Tag player, the experience between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3 is very similar. Yes, it's smoother on the Quest 3, yes, it's slightly better looking, you have a wider field of vision, which is awesome, but it's still very much the same experience. This is why the Quest 2 looks like it's about to be replaced with the Quest 3 Lite, as that will utilize the same Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip as the Quest 3, meaning it will act as a cheaper alternative to the Quest 3 without hindering the scale of games on that headset. So where does the Quest 3 actually matter in day-to-day use? To be clear, the better lenses are much better. There's far less glare, and coupled with the higher resolution, it's a significantly clearer headset to play through. Couple that with the much more vibrant and accurate colors, the deeper black levels, everything visually looks so much better, even in games that haven't received Quest 3 specific updates yet. So on that alone, if you're not just exclusively a Gorilla Tag player, profusely dumping sweat onto your lenses and can barely see shit to begin with, if you're playing immersive VR experiences, especially if you're playing via a link cable for PC VR experiences, Quest 3 will capitalize on that the most, by a significant degree. But if you're currently content with the Quest 2's visuals and don't actually care that much about immersive experiences, what's the point? Well,
worst rapper to ever spit on a...
Any of you with the Quest 2 will know how laggy the current UI is. Getting in and out of games is slow as hell, and God forbid that you press the menu button during basically any game. Sometimes your entire screen can freeze for a couple of seconds time before barely allowing you to hit the quit button in a given game. Based on the performance of the UI alone, I won't be going back to play Quest 2 unless I intentionally want to torture someone. The UI actually fucking functions on the Quest 3. Loading times are much more improved. You can invite friends, you can access the store or social hubs on the menu during a game without nuking the entire headset. It's great. Naturally though, the Quest 2, due to its hardware limitations and Meta's focus on the Quest 3, is now getting less and less significant updates. That's not to say it's getting none, but nowhere near what it was getting a year or two ago. That's pretty self-explanatory. This is a product at the end of its life cycle after all, and this price point is reflective of that. If you don't like the Quest 2 now, you're unlikely to like it in a year's time either. This thing won't be changing much from now on. The Quest 1 that released back in 2019 not only has stopped receiving new updates, but developers will now no longer be able to publish new games on the headset past the 30th of this month. Even Gorilla Tag announced at the end of February that they'll be delisting Gorilla Tag from the Quest 1 store. The point that I'm making here is that this will inevitably be what happens to the Quest 2 too. Though I don't think it's going to happen next year, as if the Quest 1 released in 2019 and the Quest 2 released in 2020, you would expect to see the Quest 2 follow in the same slow discontinuation of support by next year. I don't think that's what's going to happen, just to be clear, given its popularity, but it will eventually be the case once enough users are on the Quest 3 Lite and the Quest 3, which is very important to consider if you're about to dump $200 on this newly discounted Quest 2. Honestly, I think this sale is a little bit disingenuous by Meta, considering that they haven't publicly officially revealed the Quest 3 Lite yet and are now parading around the Quest 2 like it's gotten this $100 discount for no reason but out of the goodness of their own heart. I'd imagine anyone buying this headset at this price today and then seeing the Quest 3 Lite reveal in a few months won't be happy that they weren't made aware of this beforehand, especially if you're young. Will you even have another $300 or $500 to buy the Quest 3 Lite or the Quest 3 in a year or two's time? Are you willing to use the Quest 2 for this shorter period of time, or would you rather make that preemptive jump to one of these newer headsets? It's worth considering, though no matter how well this headset holds up in 2024, which it actually does do pretty well, it will still meet the same fate as the Quest 1 sooner rather than later, regardless. As for the Quest 3 Lite, the seeming Quest 2 replacement, it will be a better headset than the Quest 2, while seemingly maintaining a $200 to $300 price point based on these leaks. That headset's rumored to release this year, early this year, and we are currently a little more than early into this year. It's basically spring now, so there's a legitimate possibility that for those of you who buy a Quest 2 at this new price point, you're gonna feel like you've been duped by Meta when they drop its replacement. So seriously consider that. Anyway, Did you get it here again? Yeah, the Quest 3 controllers are nicer than the Quest 2's controllers, and they're lighter. Like, they are better controllers, but it's not game-changing enough to even really warrant a serious discussion about it, at least in my opinion. It's more of a nicety than any sort of necessity. Yeah, I'd rather the Quest 3 controllers over the Quest 2s, but I also just don't care that much. They're used the same way in basically every game, because basically every game is trying to capitalize on both headsets, primarily the Quest 2 because of its larger user base. The haptics, though, are a little nicer on the Quest 3s for sure, but besides that, it's really not that worth talking about, besides the fact that the tracking is better on the Quest 3's controllers, at least in my experience. So if you are playing a lot of competitive Beat Saber, or really any game that requires you to quickly swing the controller around, sure, the Quest 3 controllers are a legitimate upgrade in that regard. The Quest 2 controllers would consistently cut out for me when I would engage in any legitimately fast movement, but they'd hold up well enough in games like Gorilla Tag and Breaches and Pavlov and everything else to not really influence my decision much between using either. They're both fine. Objectively, as of right now, besides some visual differences and obviously mixed reality content exclusive to the Quest 3 like First Encounter, content is basically the same for both headsets here. How long this will be the case, will the Quest 2 eventually see some apps be delisted from its store like with the Quest 1, it's all up to time. And how well the Quest 3 and the Quest 3 Lite sell too. But arguably, the most important factor, at least to me, when deciding between either of these two headsets is the Quest 3 is actually technically heavier than the Quest 2 by 13 grams, but the way that this weight is distributed makes a world of a difference. It's pretty easy to see the difference in the headset's length here, though some of that's negated once you put a face pad on, because the Quest 3 face pad makes its length basically comparable to the Quest 2, but the Quest 3 generally is a much more compact device, and it has a tighter center of gravity than the Quest 2, meaning that you don't feel like there's as much of a heavy brick hanging off with the front of your face as you did with the Quest 2. It's way easier to whip your head around in games and can legitimately give you an actual competitive advantage due to the difference in weight distribution. Couple this with a good head strap like this Kiwi Elite strap that I use, and a better face pad like a VR cover, and then you have what feels like a significantly more agile and less invasive headset to wear for longer and more intense play sessions. Don't get me wrong, it's still not perfect by any means, but if you're a sweaty Gorilla Tag player or you play a lot of competitive FPS games, this added freedom and wider FOV is legitimately a really nice addition. The Quest 2's audio is pretty shit. It's tinny, it lacks bass, but some of that is made up for with how good Meta's positional audio is, which sounds kind of counteractive, as you would assume shitty headphones but with really good 3D positional audio would kind of sound worse and only amplify that problem. But in a lot of games it does actually add some needed depth to the audio, and it hides a lot of its quality. Also in games like Gorilla Tag, where most people are on the Quest 2 anyway and are using the built-in mic, you don't really need great audio quality when that's the sort of content you're playing the most and the sort of players that you're playing with and listening to the most. Obviously, for more immersive experiences, the Quest 3 is the better choice. If you had to pick a headset to play Half-Life Alyx on, the Quest 3 is gonna win every time. Though at least to me, maybe my ears are just ruined from so many Gorilla Tag lobbies, but the Quest 3's audio isn't some crazy leap in quality. It's fine, it's not bad, and it's definitely passable for a native VR headset and likely won't bother you unless you're looking for index level audio quality in your VR experiences. And if that is the case, both of these headsets have plenty of third-party audio options now. So it's really down to you and how much that you care and the sort of experiences that you play. But something that we really can't debate is the Quest 2 doesn't even compete here. Besides some black and white janky App Lab mixed reality experiences, the Quest 3 in my mind is like literally the only real mixed reality headset here. The Quest 2 tries, but besides briefly using its pass-through to have a drink and then probably spill that spill down yourself because you can't see cool, the Quest 3 just runs laps around the Quest 2. It's not even a fair comparison. The Quest 2 was never meant to be a mixed reality headset, but the real question here is, do you even need mixed reality? Yeah, the Quest 2 doesn't really have the capability, but do you even need to care? And honestly, not really. At least not right now. Besides being able to access menus between games using the mixed reality or a couple of small demo experiences, the Quest 3's mixed reality is still in its early stages of life, and there's just not the incentive for a lot of developers to even bother utilizing this feature yet. The majority of games on Quest are just focused on optimizing for both headsets and don't even attempt to utilize the mixed reality at all. So besides it being a nice addition for those moments between games, it's not really something that you need, especially when it will run you $300 more.
Now I ain't saying she a gold digger.
The Quest 2 now sat at $200, even if it's only briefly, and even if they sell out soon, if you're not sure about VR yet, if $500 is a lot of money for you to dump on a very niche technology, its current value for money is undeniable. And at $200, I would honestly just say, get the Quest 2 while you can. Seriously, if you like that headset, and if you become invested in VR because of that headset, and you enjoy these experiences, and you want to experience more, experience a wider FOV, more clarity, a higher resolution, better comfort, and mixed reality, then get the Quest 3. If you're unsure, and you don't know even if VR is for you, and you're worried about motion sickness, and you're curious enough to watch this random and slightly brain-dead VR YouTuber up to this point, just make the leap. Pick the Quest 2 up for $200 and just have fun with it. Stop watching all these videos being like, which one do I buy? Just get the Quest 2. It's fine. And then come back to my channel and watch all of my other videos, because honestly, I kind of need to add money. Like,
Someday. Ah!